Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to explore one of the most fascinating, widely collected, and historically significant coins in American numismatics, the Washington quarter dollar, a coin that not only became a staple of everyday commerce for nearly a century but also evolved into a beloved collectible with numerous rare varieties, errors, and key dates that continue to capture the imagination of collectors around the world. And in this deep dive we are going to break down its full history, its physical specifications, its original purpose, its changes over time, the artistry behind its design, the role it played in both commerce and culture, and of course, its most valuable additions that have sold for astonishing prices at major coin auctions, making it one of the most talked about and desirable United States coins ever minted. So let's begin with its origins, because to truly understand the Washington quarter we must first go back to the early 1930s when America was still in the grip of the Great Depression, unemployment was high, breadlines were long, and the United States government sought to inspire public confidence and patriotism by commemorating the bicentennial of George Washington's birth in 1932, and thus the Washington quarter was born. Intended to replace the standing Liberty quarter which had been in circulation since 1916, but had received criticism for both its design issues and the public controversies surrounding its artistic depictions. So Congress authorized a new quarter dollar featuring George Washington, the nation's first president and a symbol of strength and unity, and entrusted the creation of the design to sculptor John Flanagan, whose portrait of Washington, based on Jean-Antoine Houdon's famous bust of the president, was chosen to appear on the obverse, and the reverse was adorned with a heraldic eagle, perched proudly on a bundle of arrows with olive branches beneath, symbolizing the balance of war readiness and peace, and thus in 1932 the first Washington quarters were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, as well as smaller mintages at the Denver and San Francisco mints, all of them composed of 90% silver and 10% copper, with a diameter of 24.3 millimeters and a weight of 6.25 grams, making them substantial coins that carried both intrinsic and face value. And from the very start collectors took notice, especially because the 1932 D and 1932 S Washington quarters were struck in limited numbers, just 436,800 at Denver and 408,000 at San Francisco, which today makes them two of the key dates of the entire Washington quarter series and extremely valuable in higher grades, often fetching thousands of dollars, sometimes tens of thousands, depending on condition and certification. But beyond their rarity, these early issues marked the beginning of a coin that would endure for generations, serving as both currency and collector's treasure, and as the years went by the Washington quarter remained in production, with the silver composition continuing until 1964 when rising silver prices and economic pressures forced the United States Mint to remove silver from most circulating coins, including the quarter, replacing the composition with a clad mixture of copper and nickel starting in 1965, with a total weight reduced to 5.67 grams and a diameter of 24.26 millimeters, a change that disappointed many collectors who cherished the beauty and intrinsic value of silver coinage, but nonetheless, the Washington quarter pressed on, adapting to a new era of coinage, and while most everyday Americans did not notice the difference, sharp-eyed collectors certainly did, especially those who treasured the silver years from 1932 through 1964 as the golden era of Washington quarters, full of rare varieties, overstrikes, double dies, repunched mint marks, and other minting anomalies that today command incredible premiums. For example, the famous 1937 double die obverse quarter where Washington's profile appears slightly doubled, or the 1943 S over S variety, or the rare transitional errors of 1964 and 1965 where leftover silver planchets were accidentally struck with 1965 dies, creating extremely rare silver-clad transitional errors that today can sell for thousands. But what also makes the Washington quarter fascinating is its evolution through American history, because while its core design by Flanagan remained the same for decades, the quarter was also a canvas for national expression, changing dramatically in 1976 for the United States bicentennial when the Mint released the special dual-dated 1776 to 1976 quarters featuring Jack L. R's reverse design of a colonial drummer boy and a torch surrounded by 13 stars, an issue that became instantly iconic, minted in both clad and 40% silver versions for collectors, and millions were saved as keepsakes, making them common but still beloved, and from there the Washington quarter once again became a vehicle for celebration of history when in 1999 the U.S. Mint launched the 50-state quarters program, an ambitious series that ran until 2008, releasing unique reverses for each state in the Union, sparking a collecting frenzy across America with millions of people saving quarters from change for the first time in their lives, fueling a revival in coin collecting unmatched in modern times. And this was followed by the D.C. and U.S. Territories quarters in 2009, then the America the Beautiful quarters from 2010 through 2021, each featuring national parks and monuments, before finally transitioning into the American Women Quarters program in 2022. Yet through all these changes, Washington's portrait endured on the obverse, modified slightly over the decades but still recognizable, a testament to his lasting legacy and the coin's staying power, and along the way some issues became incredibly rare and valuable, such as the 1950 D/S repunched mint mark, or the rare 1934 double die quarter, or high-grade examples of otherwise common years, because in the world of numismatics condition is king, and a coin graded mint state 67 or 68 by PCGS or NGC can sell for staggering amounts compared to the same coin in circulated condition, with record auction prices for Washington quarters often surpassing $40,000, $50,000, or even more depending on the date, mint mark, and condition. For instance, a pristine 1932 D quarter in mint state 66 sold for over $143,000 at auction, and other key issues like the 1932 S or 1934 D double die also command similar high prices, reminding us that what was once pocket change can transform into a small fortune in the right circumstances. And beyond the financial value, there is also the cultural value of the Washington quarter, because it has been a part of American life for nearly a century, carried in the pockets of soldiers during World War II, used by children to buy candy in the 1950s, jingling in the jukeboxes of the 1960s, and saved in jars, albums, and collections across the country. And because of this longevity, the Washington quarter is not just a coin but a piece of living history, connecting generations of Americans to their past while continuing to inspire collectors today. And in our next part we will go even deeper, focusing on the specific rarest issues, the top auction records, the most famous varieties, and what makes certain Washington quarters worth life-changing amounts. But for now we have established the foundation of its history, its design, its importance, and its enduring legacy as one of the most collected and fascinating coins in the world. When we look closer at the Washington quarter dollar beyond its general history and design, the real excitement for collectors begins with a hunt for the rarest dates, the most dramatic mint errors, and the highest grade survivors that today bring jaw-dropping prices at auction. And one of the first points of fascination lies in the legendary key dates of the series, specifically the 1932 D and the 1932 S, which, as I mentioned earlier, had very low mintages compared to later years, and when preserved in uncirculated condition, these coins are among the most desirable of all Washington quarters, with prices soaring into the tens of thousands, and collectors often dream of finding one of these in a roll of quarters, though the odds today are virtually zero, and even circulated examples are worth hundreds of dollars, especially if they are problem-free with good eye appeal. But beyond these early keys, there are also important conditional rarities such as the 1934 D double die obverse quarter, where the motto "In God We Trust" and parts of Washington's profile appear strongly doubled, making it a major variety that can sell for thousands even in mid-grade. And then there are the 1940 D over S and 1943 D double die issues, which add to the complexity of this series. But perhaps the most talked about Washington quarter error of all time is the 1937 double die obverse, where the doubling is so strong that it is visible to the naked eye, and in mint state this coin has sold for five-figure prices at auctions like Heritage and Stacksbauer's, proving just how much demand exists for dramatic varieties. And as we move through the years, we encounter another fascinating segment of the series, the transitional errors, which occur when the U.S. Mint shifts compositions or designs. And one of the most famous Washington quarter transitional errors is the 1965 silver quarter struck on leftover 90% silver planchets, even though official production had moved to clad copper-nickel. These rare transitional silver 1965 quarters have been authenticated by grading services like PCGS and NGC, and examples in high grade can fetch thousands. Another transitional rarity is the 1977 D quarter struck on a silver planchet, an incredible mistake that sold for over $10,000 at auction. And then there are off-metal errors such as Washington quarters struck on dime planchets, nickel planchets, or even on foreign coin blanks, and some of these spectacular wrong planchet errors can bring $5,000 to $15,000 depending on condition. And we cannot forget the beloved 1976 bicentennial quarter, which while common in circulated condition has its own rarities, such as high-grade deep cameo proofs or silver-clad versions graded PR70 that command strong premiums. And among bicentennial collectors, finding a well-struck, frosty example with booming luster is a true prize. And as we progress into the modern state quarter era, we see that even these coins, which many people assume are too modern to have value, contain their own scarce and valuable varieties. For example, the 2004 D Wisconsin quarter with the extra leaf error, both the high leaf and low leaf varieties, which occurred when an extra line appeared near the corn stalk on the reverse. These coins were discovered in circulation and immediately gained popularity. And today examples can bring hundreds or even over $1,000 depending on grade, making them modern rarities that show collectors must pay attention even to contemporary issues. And speaking of modern issues, we also see strong demand for registry-quality Washington quarters in ultra-high grades, where coins that might look common at first glance become incredibly valuable because of their pristine surfaces, perfect luster, and absence of contact marks. For example, a 1950 D quarter in MS-68 can sell for over $15,000, even though a lower-grade example might only be worth a few dollars, and this phenomenon of condition rarity drives a large part of the market, as serious collectors compete for the finest known examples in PCGS and NGC registries, pushing prices higher and higher, and one of the most famous auction records belongs to a 1932 D Washington quarter graded MS-66 which realized over $143,000, while other high-grade early issues like the 1932 S or 1936 D have crossed the $30,000 to $50,000 range, showing the immense potential locked in this series. But beyond the silver issues, the modern clad series also produces dramatic minting errors like off-center strikes, double strikes, and broad strikes, all of which can be worth from a few hundred to several $1,000s depending on the severity and condition. And for proof collectors, the special proof-only issues struck at the San Francisco Mint starting in 1936 offer their own field of rarity, with deep cameo examples from the early years being especially desirable, often selling for four-figure sums. And when we look at the bigger picture of the Washington quarter dollar, what makes it such a beloved series is that it offers something for everyone, from beginners who want to assemble a circulated date and mint set from change, to advanced specialists who chase the rarest varieties and finest known survivors. And unlike many other series, the Washington quarter has remained relevant through every major U.S. commemorative program, from the bicentennial to the 50-state quarters, the territories quarters, the America the Beautiful quarters, and now the American Women quarters, which means this series continues to evolve, offering new opportunities for discovery and collecting. And in terms of value, the Washington quarter market remains strong because it combines affordability with the possibility of big finds, and it connects everyday people to U.S. history in a way that no other coin quite does, whether through its silver legacy, its iconic Washington portrait, or its countless varieties. So whether you're searching through old change jars, hunting rolls from the bank, or carefully studying auction catalogs, the Washington quarter dollar always offers excitement, history, and the potential for treasures. And that is why it remains one of the most enduringly popular coins of the United States, a coin that continues to inspire new generations of collectors, investors, and historians alike, making it not only a piece of money but a piece of America itself, a story in silver, clad, and copper that spans nearly a century and counting. And with that, we conclude our detailed exploration of the Washington quarter dollar, one of the most historic, collectible, and valuable coins in U.S. numismatic history. Thanks for watching.